Well, welcome along to the second edition of the Foal to Finish Line Bloodstock Forum, in which over the course of the next few weeks and months, we're going to be travelling around speaking to a different panel of guests and expert panel members about the thoroughbred racing industry, how you might get involved in it if you want to take a step beyond the racecourse and maybe look into racehorse ownership. We're going to try and lift the veil slightly on what happens behind the scenes with horses as they go from a foal in the paddock through to turning up the fantastic athletes that you see on the racecourse when you arrive at a day like today. Here, the first of 4 fabulous days for York's Ebor meeting. So Foal to Finish Line is the title of the event, and it's time now to introduce the panel for this second edition of the Bloodstock Forum. We've got Sales Director from Tattersalls, the premier thoroughbred auction house in Europe, Harvey. We've got Elliott, bloodstock agent, Karl Burke, well-known trainer, and Jamie Railton, who is really the man behind this Bloodstock Forum, a consignor yourself, Jamie, which is someone who brings horses to sale and gets people involved at the grassroots level. Just tell us a little bit about, first of all, about the idea behind this Bloodstock Forum and what you've been trying to do and try to achieve.
We're the incredibly lucky ones in that we get the chance to work with this amazing animal, the thoroughbred. And I just thought we need to get this message out to the broader, wider public and actually give them a chance to maybe, to come to the sales and see how the process comes about before the horse actually shows up here at the racecourse.
And when people come racing, we know people at York love their racing, real expert crowd as well that comes here. They see these athletes arrive on the racecourse. Just give us a little overview. The title of the forum is Foal to Finish Line. What's the process involved from foal through to seeing this horse on the racecourse today? Just a very sort of brief overview of what is involved in getting that horse, in a very short space of time from, running around with its mother in a field to being able to race and
exactly.
impress the fans here.
I mean, you want to come back in your next life as a racehorse because the care these animals get is just amazing. So the weaning process is the first hurdle they have in their life. And that's done, they do that in pairs, in couples.
So that's when they're taken away from their mum.
Exactly, taken away from their mum. Then they raise very naturally. We have some amazing stud farms in this country. We're incredibly lucky, and the climate is suitable, the land is suitable, and the expertise is here. And so we raise some of the best horses in the world happening in the UK, yeah. And so we have the first opportunity for somebody to buy a horse is at the foal sales. So these horses are very young, but they are amazingly intelligent. That's what's the incredible thing about the thoroughbred. They're amazingly intelligent. So the first opportunity for someone to buy a racehorse is at the foal sale. And then a year later, we call them yearlings, so they're a year older. That's the next opportunity. And then 6 months later, we have 2-year-old sales, which are sometimes referred to as breeze-up sales, where buyers can see a horse gallop. So there's a lot of variety, a lot of options, and they all require slightly different processes. And then, as Harvey, I'm sure, will explain to you, then there's horses in training. So you can buy horses at every stage, which is great.
And just before we go on to the sales scene and how people can maybe come up and get involved in that, I wonder, Alex, if you could just give us a little bit of more idea of what goes into the preparation of those horses for those specific sales. So from a foal that might not have been handled, that might not have done anything, through to it arriving on a racecourse looking like a professional athlete, what is involved in the education of those horses?
Well, I think the best way to describe it all is it's very much like what humans do. You get in the gym, you keep fit, and as Jamie alluded to, you've got to treat yourself well, and the foals and the mares and everything gets treated the best they can in order to produce athletes like Ombudsman and Constitution River that you're going to see here at York today. So all of it is just a slow process, basically. It takes, when a mare, say a foal is born in February, it'll be weaned maybe 6 months later. I know that, for example, in the great racing nations, Japan, they wean a little bit later because they don't have the pressure of the sales like we do over here, the commercial side of it. And those horses would be hand walked and whatever. And then when they come in for a yearling prep, they get about a 10-week prep, which is like putting a horse in the gym. to get the bone and the muscle developed, and then they're sold and they're sold onto somebody like Karl, who will then put the horse into a breaking process, and then Karl takes over and gets them here to win the races.
And that's the aim of the game. There'll be a bit of that going on today, Karl. Just talk us through the process from when the horses arrive at yours, the programme they go into, how you sort of separate out those different horses and different athletes for the kind of, I guess, the career that they're then going to have going forward.
Well, as Alex said, that process of preparing a yearling or a foal to get to sale prep, I buy mainly yearlings. So those yearlings that turn up at the sales generally prep very well. They're a way along the route of getting fit to a certain degree. But obviously the next stage when they come to us, or I send them to a pre-trainer who will break them in, we quite often break our own as well. That process starts probably September, October, November, depending on which sale the horse has come from. And that process of breaking them is another step along the way of getting them fit and stronger, because they start carrying people. People when we start riding them. Even before that, the lunging, the driving, it's all a preparation of building muscle. And right the way through the winter, once they are ridden, the step up into cantering and trotting, and it's building up. It's educating them, but at the same time it's building up muscle and building up strength to hopefully prepare them for as they get quicker into the following year.
So we know about the journey of a horse going from foal through to racecourse. Harvey, if someone wants to get involved in that journey, if they want to invest in a horse, if they want to buy a horse, if they want a horse on the racecourse to get involved in, at what stage can they get involved and how do they go about it?
Yeah, there's a whole range of sales, as Jamie alluded to. You can buy a horse when it's a foal, you can buy a proven horse from a horse and training sale that already has form there. So there's a whole myriad of ways getting involved. But I think we acknowledge that this isn't like buying a piece of art. It's not like buying an expensive watch you just put on your wrist or on the wall. There's a whole support network that is needed when you buy a racehorse. But that's actually a big positive, I think, because the relationships that you get when you get into this industry are one of the big advantages and one of the big things that I think is a massive selling point, the community and the relationships and the enjoyment that people get out of it. But we as Tattersalls, it's a public auction house. Anybody can attend. The catalogue can be picked up for free. People can come and observe and just enjoy the theatre. We like to think we can put on a bit of a show. They can come for a drink, they can come for the restaurants. And then if they do want to dip their toe and take the next step, there are various different ways they can get involved. They can go to the Federation of Bloodstock Agents and meet somebody like Alex. They can go to the National Trainers Federation and meet someone like Karl. There's a lot of different ways there that they can be put in touch with the people that will support them and handhold them through that process. And then you have organisations like the Thoroughbred Breeders Association, the TBA. They can do that as well, especially if you want to start breeding your own racehorses. And then GBRI, Great British Racing International, who are part of the BHA structure. They can also act almost like a concierge service as well to help you network, to help you put you in touch with those people. And once you dip a toe into it, it's a great journey you can end up going on.
And Jamie, just to kind of develop that further, if somebody turns up to Tattersalls, wants to just find out a little bit more, they might not be ready to buy a horse yet, but they just want to see what happens up there, what kind of prices horses are going for, have a look at the horses. They arrive on the sales ground, they pick up their catalogue. Where do they go? Who do they speak to?
Yeah, that's a really good question. As Harvey says, we have organisations which are there primarily to help newcomers and advise them, and it's a great educational process. People we find who are new really enjoy learning about the whole process, and for us, even ourselves, it's a lifetime's education. So a lot of people really embrace that. And the more that they learn, the more that they sort of find actually this is really interesting, and hopefully it then leads on to sort of part ownership. We have so many ownership opportunities and models, whether it's only 100% of a mare or a foal or a yearling or two, or you can spread the financial burden, and it doesn't need to be expensive at all, and form partnerships. And a lot of people actually find that even more fun when they're doing it with their friends. They really do. Syndicates, yeah. But there are, as soon as somebody comes to the sales, as Harvey says, is GBRI and the GBA are there primarily to help people and point them in the right direction, show them the ropes, show them round how Alex and his colleagues find the next champion of tomorrow.
So we're ready to take the next step. Alex, just give us a little bit of an overview of what you're looking for at the sales, how you'd advise someone to get involved, maybe at a starting point at a lower level to begin with.
Well, I think as an agent, you're acting very much as a broker. So if someone was going to go and buy a house, you would employ an estate agent, or if someone was going to book a holiday, sometimes they employ professionals to find their holidays. And I think it's very much the same from an agent's point of view. I wear a few hats within the industry in terms of I have my own stock, etc. So I think it's very important for me to explain from the start that people can invest in this. You're maybe not just buying a racehorse. You might be buying a foal to resell as a yearling. So I explain the whole what's out there to them. And then when it comes to the actual buying of the horses, I'll take it back to looking at humans again. You're kind of looking for you're looking for the athletes, horses that can move, can walk, have strength. And something that makes it all so wonderful is nobody really knows the exact science to it. So they're looking for that horse that really wants it. And that's the magic of it. If we all knew the results, it wouldn't be fun. So to take people on that journey, buying horses at the right price to maybe selling horses at the right price, that can be fun as well. And then there's some huge incentives out there, like the GBB bonus, where if you buy a British bred filly, they can race for a certain amount of bonuses. Tattersalls put on sales races in different countries, actually. There's a couple in England and then there's one in Ireland, so you're going to travel with the horses. And it's my job to explain to people the buying process of the horse, but it can be quite a complex, daunting, if somebody's just starting out, quite a complex, daunting sport. And I think it's my job to make sure that I explain it as best as possible while trying to find them the best horses for their buck.
Yeah, and Karl, it's probably something you relate to, talking about the lack of an exact science. You made your name finding those horses maybe at a cheaper level that end up winning Group 1s. You've had countless through your hands. So you would buy a lot of horses on spec, you'd bring them home, and then an owner might get involved at that stage. Just give us a little bit of an idea of how you kind of simplify that process and I guess educate those people if they wanted to, if they called you up and said, I want to get involved in a horse, how would you go about sort of simplifying that process for people?
First thing obviously is probably to find what sort of budget that they're looking to work at. So that would dictate to a degree which sale to go for, to go to. So that would be the first stage. After that, we plough through a lot of horses at these sales between us. So we look and we do our own short list. And as you say, me personally, I'd buy a lot on spec and then get those horses home. I'm always buying, thinking I'm going to end up owning at least half of that horse or at least a leg in that horse.
Which I guess gives people confidence. If you're willing to take that investment in the horse, you must believe in it.
That's what I found. Yeah, that's what I found. And then from there, we'll start the education process, the breaking process, and introduce people to that level of horse I can recommend. Sometimes, I'll say I won't sell a horse because it's no good. We've been left with horses that I don't think are going to be useful racehorses. They might have to be passed on for another job. And I can name a couple of the horses that we bought that haven't worked out, and we've kept them ourselves and done our best with them and moved them on. So that's all part of the process. But
and what's involved for people as an owner? What is an ownership experience like at Karl Burke Racing, at Spigot Lodge? What do people come and visit their horses? Do you communicate with them throughout their career at the races? What is involved? What makes it special?
Once somebody has made an inquiry and come down and had a look at the horse, obviously we show them the facilities that we've got. Spigot Lodge particularly lends itself to two owners coming round and it's a very relaxed yard, it's very spacious. So that's all part. They'll come and view the horse. Then once they've decided if they wanted to buy and get involved, they'll come down to watch the horse progress through that winter period while it's being broken, the young horses, watch them on the gallops. And we also have apps that we send out to owners regularly, which shows the horses on the gallop, so they don't have to actually be there. So we found that works really well. People are very receptive to that. And then as the following year comes on, when the 2-year-olds progress into being ready to run, the weather gets a bit better, people come up again, and you know, it's all part of the process and part of the ownership experience. Come up, stay up at Spigot Lodge, see the horses on the gallops in the morning, and then and if they're that interested, they can participate in making a plan for that horse as well. I'm very receptive to that.
Yeah, and the journey doesn't just stop at the end of their racing career. It's National Racehorse Week this week, next week, and that's been very much the focus of the retraining programs and what's available to horses after. And I think a lot of people that watch racing might wonder what happens to horses when their career ends. Jamie, just tell us a little bit more about the kind of longevity of these horses.
So all breeders have to contribute to when a horse comes to a public auction. They'll pay a fee which goes towards racing welfare, the horse's second career. And we have some really good systems in place where the horse, you know, if the horse's racing career is over for whatever reason, there is another role for it in its next environment. Yeah. So the horse's welfare is number one priority for all of us in the industry, because without the horse, we don't have a job. So it's vital. Yeah.
And there's traceability for those
Absolutely,
horses
exactly,
until the end of
end
of their
yeah.
life. I know a thing or two about rehoming
Have you had a
ex-racehorses.
few? Yeah.
I've got to, thanks to my husband, Elliott. You know a thing or two about the horses having to find a second home. Two have found a very nice home with ours. Just tell us a little bit about kind of that process and what those horses have got to offer people after their racing careers.
I suppose I was saying, we were talking about the introduction for owners to the sport. It's important for all of us to give them their plan along the way, and the exit strategy is a big thing. So if the horse doesn't have a value, maybe has picked up an injury which makes the horse unsaleable, then it's on. Karl will have a program that he speaks to different organisations, and some of the staff in the yard take some of these horses on that they've fallen in love with, and they'll take them home and they'll retrain them. And you know, we just need to. From my point of view, it's my job to close it out for owners once they've got to the end of the road where those horses go next. And there's a lot of opportunity, but it's also something that needs working hard at, because at the end of the day, we've been teaching them to go fast all their lives and to go, and sometimes it's hard to find the right home for them to make them go slow, but it's what we all kind of work hard at, and everyone in the industry is working hard at.
And there's some great retraining centres around the country, some great people out there working hard to adapt those horses for a future life where they receive the same care that they received when in training yards and when with consignments and when on farms as well. So hopefully that's given people a little bit of an idea of what happens to horses from the very start of their journey through to appearing on the racecourse like they will this afternoon here at York, and a little bit more of an idea of how to take those first steps, maybe to find out a little bit more about ownership, to just go up and enjoy the theatre of the sales, and there's certainly plenty of that. Harvey, just tell us first, big yearling sale coming up at Tattersalls in the next few weeks, and some of the amazing theatre and spectacle that we enjoy in the sales ring is open for everyone.
Yeah, I suppose we start in 2 weeks, Gino, and just as Karl and Jamie mentioned earlier, and Alex, different price points. We're coming up to a Somerville sale in a fortnight's time where we get a horse like Celeron, who won a Group 2 in Ireland recently. He cost 20,000. Or you can go down the line to Book 1 at the start of October and you pick up a horse like Wise Approach or Camille Pizarro, who cost 7 figures but also won Group 1s as well. So I think it just shows you the spread and the opportunities involved, but that's where you get the experts involved to help you along the way.
Yeah, well, let's hope many people choose to go down that route or to find out a little bit more. As I said, plenty of organisations that will hold people's hand through the process. But for now, Harvey Bell, Alex Elliott, Karl Burke and Jamie Railton, thank you so much for your time and lifting the lid on the thoroughbred industry to a certain degree. We'll be back on racecourses in the next coming weeks and months to try and expand people's knowledge, just give you a little bit more information about what goes on behind the scenes here on this second Bloodstock Forum Foal to Finish Line. Thanks for listening.